This week's talk is called How You Can Live Who You Have Come Here to Be. And the thing about this, the thing that is so important about living who you have come here to be, I believe something, and I cannot prove it, that actually in our DNA, besides what color eyes we're going to have, how tall we're going to be, what color skin we have, is a directive that has to do with who we have come here to be. There's something actually in us. And the reason I believe this is because there have been times in my life I have done things that have gone against my grain, which means I have a grain, which means I have something that something just feels not in alignment with. That when I do anything or feel anything or think anything that is not in alignment with my true self, I feel it. And I believe that you do too. Whether you're in touch with it or not is a whole nother ballgame. We are such an A-type civilization where what we are driven by most of the time is what we came here to accomplish, our purpose in what it is we are doing. But I believe that for myself, I have learned that there's something deeper than what it is we have come here to do. And I know I've spoken about this before, that it's who we have come here to be. And in this being, the doing comes out of that. I think that what happens to many of us, though, particularly many of us who have walked this path for a while, is that sometimes we interpret the being into a doing that we think must be our calling. I'm going to say that again because that was a mouthful. That it is possible that in this DNA that is talking to us, that is expressing to us who we have come here to be, we interpret that into a doing. That sometimes, it is smaller than the true being that is within us. And it has to do with our need for purpose and our need for doing this. And so I'm not saying that we should go against those needs. I'm saying that in our haste to interpret the calling that we have within us to be, we move it into a doing that may or may not be accurate. And so let me give you an example of what it is I'm talking about. I have a beingness in me that is artistic, that needs to express itself artistically. And when I was younger, I was positive and interpreted that artistic calling as being a rock and roll star. And so I went about doing that. And for some of you, you may have heard this story before, but I'm telling it in a different light now. When I first started what I thought was expressing my beingness through the doing of music, I was told I had no talent at this. In fact, I originally was booed off the stage because they thought I was so horrible at it. But I was so positive that this was my calling that I struggled with it for years and years and years. Now, ultimately, because of my artistic beingness, I actually did get good at it. And after a long while, people started telling me what a natural I was at music. So I went from no talent at all to being a natural because of the drivenness within me, within that beingness that wanted to be artistic. Now, I would have never learned the difference between how I interpret this thing if I hadn't fallen across filmmaking. Now, let me tell you the differences I've had with filmmaking. When it occurred to me to express my artistic nature through filmmaking, which was only a couple of years ago, the amount of feedback I have gotten about how good I am at this and how this is something worth my exploration, as opposed to what I went through with music, is astonishing to me. The smaller little tasks that go along with filmmaking and the smaller little tasks that went along with music. Where in music they would annoy me, where in filmmaking they simply add to the breadth, fullness and breadth of knowledge that I get to gain within this way of expressing myself. So what that's done is it's improved my passion around it. And I'm feeling the difference. And what I learned from this and what I take from this is that within all of us is that place where we can express who it is we have come to be through a doingness that actually fits the talents that we have. So it's not such a struggle. Now, does that mean there isn't a learning curve? No. I have so much to learn about filmmaking, but it doesn't feel like the same struggle I had. So if you're involved in, let's say, a healing art, if you're involved in, let's say, anything that you feel called to do, I would ask, does it feel like a struggle? And if so, dig deeper into your beingness, because there may be another way of expressing it that you may not be aware of. I was never aware of being a minister, never aware of filmmaking, until I allowed myself to sit deeper in my beingness to see what kind of doingness would show up. I was so sure I knew that I never gave myself the chance to be and learn. Because we are so purposeful, or we are such a purposeful society that we hate sitting around doing nothing. It's like we need something to do. And in that haste, in that need, we might jump on something that then develops into a struggle. And we wonder why it's a struggle, since it's our bliss we're expressing. But the bliss that we're expressing is the beingness underneath the doingness, if it's a struggle, not the doingness itself. Because there's no bliss in struggle. That doesn't mean there isn't hard work, but it feels different. And it's like so many things. If you haven't felt the difference, it's really hard to describe. I'm just telling you that it's there. That there is a real difference when you find that way of expressing your beingness that your talents just flow into, that you can't wait to learn more, that with each obstacle that may or may not show up, it's easy to see it as an opportunity. It's not a struggle to see it as an opportunity, because you realize that it's not the accomplishment that's driving you. It's your beingness. It's expressing who you have come here to be. And in that, the accomplishment itself becomes irrelevant. It's the process and the doing. And it feels so nice and full as you're doing it. You're not making money at it right away. So what? It's still fun to do, and you're still going to do what you do because it's being driven by who you want to be. And so we live our lives in who we want to be, and then all of a sudden the obstacles don't matter. They're just opportunities to be more of who we want to be. All of a sudden, whether there's money or not involved, it doesn't matter. You do something else to get money while you're working on this. You don't have that thing going on where I have to make money at this, and if I'm not living my bliss. It doesn't feel like that at all. If it does feel like that, dig deeper. You may be expressing your doingness in a way that you may have another way to express if you're totally in touch with your beingness. Because I can tell you from my own personal experience, the deeper I get with who I have come here to be, the more it expresses in a way of doing that doesn't feel like a struggle at all. It feels way more like fun. I am relaxing way deeper into it. And this is what's possible for you. So I don't want to say be patient, because I don't believe in patience, as anybody who's listened to my talks know. But be willing to be still. Be willing to trust in perfect and right time. You must trust that your beingness will find its way to express through a doingness that is perfect and right for you. If you are willing to take that journey, the way your bliss expresses will feel magnificent, will feel miraculous. Mine does. And I know that it can for you too. Thank you. I love you.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.